Hey there, I am Alex, aka Mont, and this is the backstory of Oryx, the Taken King, the birth of the Hive, so far as I understand it from reading of the Books of Sorrow, collected piece by piece along with the calcified fragments. This is quite a long story though, so start up a patrol, sit back, and relax. Like so many stories, this one begins a long time ago, in a corner of space far removed from the blue marble we call home. The when? Long before Earth. The where? Fundament, a hostile planet inhabited by a great many creatures, but we'll be focusing on but one for now. The Osmium King and his people. Osmium, as it happens, is a silvery blue element, hard, brittle, and dense. And the Osmium King's people were small, humanoid to some extent, 2 arms, 2 legs, and 3 eyes. And very short lives they lived, 10 years if that. Save for the mothers, flying, intelligent and fiercely protective. And just where have we encountered intelligent flying members of the Hive? But they were not Hive at the start. Indeed, they were not even native to Fundament. Some calamity drove them to this harsh place. And the last Osmium King grew obsessed with moons above the storm. That is to say nothing about a certain moon-like object hanging above the last city on Earth. Beyond that, the king held counsel with a dead worm, muttering to it, tending to it over the duties of his position. And a mad king must be dealt with, and so that task fell to Tauix, a sterile mother who feared for the survival of their kingdom. But whilst the Osmium King had 3 daughters, Tauix felt none of them fit to rule. Zero, the youngest and bravest, who wanted to be a knight. Sathona, most clever, who wanted to be a mother. And Orash, the navigated child who dreamed of the infinite ocean. Zero could fight, but not lead. Sathona could think, but not fight. And Orash's curiosity was such that Tauix feared she would neglect her duties. So it was that Tauix invited the neighbouring Helium court to invade the Osmium court, destroying the king and his spawn, with Tauix ruling as regent. In perhaps the most important aspect, the plan failed. All 3 daughters of the king survived and swore vengeance on the traitor Tauix. But what were they to do, with a single ship between them and only each other for company? But thanks to Zero's skill, Sathona's cunning and Orash's navigation, they survived. Orash learned the truth behind her father's rantings. It was an alignment of Fundament's 52 moons that he feared, that their gravity would induce an immense tidal wave wiping out all life on Fundament. Orash was determined to prevent that. They spent a year together in exile, and Sathona thought them happy days, exploring and surviving. And during that time they found an ancient ship, the Needle. No simple sailor's vessel, but in Sathona's own words, an artifact of high technology. The sisters were undecided on what to do with the Needle, however. Zero wished to sell it, Orash to take command of it, and Sathona ended up siding with Orash, because a certain dead worm that she had taken from her father's dying hands had spoken to her. "It is dead," she wrote, "but it speaks to me. It says, 'Listen closely, O vengeance mine.'" Another year passed and the sisters began to fear once more. They were 5 years old now, and soon Sathona would be unable to become a mother. Zero would never get her hands upon the knights who slew her father, for they themselves must surely be succumbing to age, and Orash would die before finding a way to stop the feared God Wave. But the worm spoke to Sathona, promising that if they should dive beneath, deep into the planet's core, they would find what they desired so dearly. Time. So they dove. For life, Sathona dove. For vengeance, Zero dove. And Orash dove to understand. And when they dove, they met the Leviathan, an immense creature, servant of the Traveller no doubt. It urged them to turn back, that they, in their short lives, ever struggling on the brink of annihilation, were a testament to hope. The sisters disagreed. Orash claimed Fundament no refuge, their lives without joy. Zero was angered by the Leviathan's words. How could something so huge and old know the plight of the world's weakest, the prey of the universe? Zero refused to accept the status quo. Zero would fight until the world changed. Yet still the Leviathan urged them to go no further, that before them lay only death, a path of ruin that would lead them away from all that was good. They had to choose between the harder, kinder path and the path of death and devastation. But in the end, it was an easy choice for the sisters. On the one hand, they had the dead worm that spoke to them in simple words and had led them true. And on the other, this immense creature that told them to turn back to their suffering. Of course, they ignored the warnings and dove deeper. And there they found the worms, immense coiled creatures, trapped by what we can only imagine was the Traveller, crushed deep into the darkness. Are these worms related to the Ahamkara, the dragons hunted to seeming extinction by the Guardians? Perhaps, but it answers a question I posted in another video I made about the Hive. Sol, and Yul and Akar. Were they Hive gods? Yes, in some ways they were. They were the names of these great worms. And although trapped, they had called life to Fundament, hoping that someone would find them and enter into a pact with them. Yul, the honest worm, confirmed Orash's fears. The sky and the Leviathan, they would drown all life on Fundament. The Traveller's attempt to subdue the worms of darkness, perhaps. So Yul offered Orash a symbiotic relationship. Orash and her sisters would need but take the newborn worms into their bodies. This would grant them eternal life and immense power. In exchange, they would simply need to obey their nature. Orash must never cease in sating her curiosity. Zero must never cease to test her strength, and Sathona never abandon cunning. If they abandoned their nature, the worm would consume them, and as they grew more powerful, the hunger of their worm too would grow. An insatiable hunger that would never, ever be satisfied. A harsh price. But we offer eternity, spoke Yul. We offer you a chance at the universe. Would you deny your people infinity? The sisters would not. Sathona took into herself the Mother Morph and claimed the name Savathun. Zeros was the Night Morph, and Zivu Arath her new name. And Orash? She took into her body the King Morph, and with it the name Oryx. So the Hive and their king were born. And we can understand their birth. What is it that drives the Hive on their inexorable crusade through space? Why, it is the worm of Oryx, curiosity and wanderlust twisted into an endless need to conquer, and perhaps the small matter of revenge. For Tawix was still very much alive.